Women say to be bold and take risks. Women say what they feel and mean what they say. Yeah. Believe in your power, so much power. Yeah. Where women share.
Hey, everybody. Yours truly, Takara Nicole in his house. I'm back. So excited to be back with all of y'all. Missed y'all. Took a 2-week sabbatical, much needed. But we on and popping on our new nights, Thursday nights, right here on the platform. You can catch us on our YouTube channel, and you can catch us right here on Facebook, Vault Talks Women Share. Ladies, I'm back. It feels good. What's going on?
Hey, thank God.
Hey.
We glad you're back.
I am too. It's amazing. It feels really good. And self-care is so huge to really just sit back and regroup and just get everything that you need so you can move forward with the assignments that God has placed on your life or the universe or whatever you believe in. So really excited to be back. And boy, oh boy, did I choose the perfect night to come back on. I'm just saying. So let's welcome those who may be new to our platform. We thank you guys. There's tons of things you can be doing on a Thursday night, or even if you're catching us on the replay. So Vault Talks Women Share is a platform where women can come together to learn more and share more about matters that pertain to their world. It's indeed on this platform here that we talk about leadership, love, relationships, fashion, empowerment, entrepreneurship, and of course, ways to be empowered as women. So with that being said, Liz, what's going on with you? What you want to tell the people on tonight? Something new going on with you?
Something new that's going on with me is actually, I'm just working. To just be honest with you, I'm just working, trying to put my head down, not focus on any of the other chitter chatter that's going on around me, especially when it comes to family.
Amen.
Because they see things one way versus the way I'm gonna see it. So, but anyways, I love them. But I just been doing what I gotta do, trying to put my head down, trying to take my emotions outside of the business when it comes to that, when it's concerned to that. And best believe new things are gonna come up. I'm starting to do more lives. If you didn't see my last one on Elizabeth Pateau, last name is F.S. and Frank, ETEAU, just in case you want to follow. Go ahead. Okay. On Facebook. But yeah, I've been doing a little bit more and just talking more, just getting out there, really.
Yeah.
You guys have so much inspiration.
We see you, girl.
We inspire one another. We really do. So, the influencer, what you got going on, girl? I heard you got a couple things going on over there.
Oh man, I got so much going. Too much going at once. Of course, I enjoyed doing the show. I missed you last 2 weeks, but I'm glad I got that experience to kind of be in your chair. So yeah, learning how to do that, and of course my YouTube channel, really cranking out those videos and dealing with this virtual learning stuff. That's a day-to-day struggle that trying to get over. But other than that, just like Liz said, just working.
Amen. Look, me and my bestie got this thing where we call it pulling the trigger, and just literally just launching into some things. And I literally had to tell him, I was like, I think I'm getting a little trigger happy. This is getting too fun to just pull the trigger like pow, pow, pow. So literally in the past week or so, I've pulled the trigger on a lot of different things even within my businesses. So a lot of people don't even know. And I guess it's, exposure is everything. So sometimes we think about exposure, we think about it in a bad way, but it really isn't. So I'm a publisher, and I recently launched my 8-week book camp class, and and it's so much fun just teaching people the ins and outs of self-publishing from start to finish. And my cohort is almost full for the second cohort. So really excited about just when you pull the trigger, sometimes you're like, oh my God, but it might not be perfect. It ain't gotta be perfect because you need what you have. So really excited about that. But excited about being back on the platform with y'all. Let's go ahead and transition because I know it is quiet. It's quote time with the one and only Ieshia the influencer. I don't think y'all ready for this quote. I say that every week, but I really do.
I ain't never ready.
Right. Here we go.
Go ahead.
All right.
Hold on. I almost forgot. Hold on. Just in case y'all don't know, now you know it's the fourth Thursday. If you don't know anything about fourth Thursdays, it used to be fourth Saturdays, but it's now fourth Thursdays. He said, she said, they share. We have two of the most dopest dudes on the planet coming up a little bit later. So tonight's guests are Jason Hoskins and Dwayne Price. They are in the background. They waiting to pop up on the scene when it's their time. And we're going to talk about what tonight's topic is, all things forgiveness. But again, first, shh, quiet. It's quote time. Go ahead, Ieshia.
Go ahead, boo.
All right. So tonight's quote is, forgiveness is a gift that's hard to give and hard to receive.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll start this one off. Why not? Or go ahead. So, in fact, go ahead. You were about to say something.
No, I was just saying, like, where my mind was when I was thinking about this. Like, we always think about, when we think about forgiveness, it's always hard, something hard to do. But we don't think about the fact that, oftentimes we have to be the one to be forgiven. So and you play both positions. You have to be the giver and the receiver, at some point. And it's kind of hard to put yourself in a position of receiving and asking for that forgiveness, if that makes sense. So take it away, Liz.
You right. I'm now going to change my whole thought process for a second there. Yes, you're right. Truly, it's a gift because at the end of the day, we're not always thinking that we're worthy of it personally, bringing it back towards me, you, the extent of all of that. I think that it's easier to give it than it is to receive it for yourself. Okay. Click, clap. Truly, I think just based off experience, based off of things that we've been taught, and we're always supposed to say, forgive or go out of our way to make sure that we, give that person their, okay, well, he said sorry. I'm gonna take it back to child days. He said sorry. Fine. And you take it, but you're not really really wrapping yourself around it and actually forgiving that person. I think it is a struggle to take it and say, I received it and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's way easier to give it to someone because, you want things like, example, for myself, I am a non-conflict, I don't like conflict at all. I try to avoid it at all costs. I try to be nicey with people a little too much. And I got to the point where it was like, this is not working. You got to kind of get strict. You got to know your boundaries. You have to know what works best for you. You have to know what people say and how they say it. It's not what you said. And I'm horrible at that because I'm the type of person, I say what I got to say and not care 2 cents about how I said it. So People always had to, and that was a lesson over and over again. I continuously had to learn. So I think that when people go out of their way to actually take what they've, whatever the situation, whether it be a friendship or relationship or, just within family itself, I think that we take that time and we can really dive in and kind of place ourselves in the other shoe of the person that is actually going through the experience and feeling the hurt that the way that they feel, and taking that into account. Then I think that it becomes an easier transition to be able to sit there and say, look, I apologize for X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that I did. And not so much, not saying that word, because whatever it is that I did means you're not taking responsibility for it.
Right.
So really soaking in and really kind of like getting into that mental headspace. How would I feel if that person did that to me? Is what I now ask myself, so that when I go back to apologize for how I said something, now I have a clear understanding of what I might have said that made them upset, and I didn't mean it that way. This is how I really meant it, so on and so forth, and kind of going it, but again, above and beyond that. So yeah, it is hard to receive it for myself. Yeah. But giving it up, yeah, it's like a swallow of the pride, and being able to just fess up and say, yeah, my bad. I did that. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I think. What you think?
Where to start? Because that's a heavy load. First of all, let's just be really transparent about the topic of forgiveness as a whole. That's a heavy topic, period, because a lot of times we're taught forgive and forget, and that really doesn't exist. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you can forgive and forget eventually, but it doesn't come overnight. That's what doesn't exist. And I am very mindful of that now, in the fact that somebody had to kind of say na boo boo in a joking manner, but he was very serious, because I was remembering something, but I couldn't remember the whole details of what someone did to me. So he's like, oh, so you did forget about such and such. So it reminded me that I did forget about the sting of it. It no longer stung. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when the sting is no longer there, we automatically forget that we have completely forgiven. And sometimes that is the case, and sometimes that isn't the case, depending on what that thing is. And forgiveness is not an overnight process. So I want to make sure that I make that very clear. It is something that you might have to forgive somebody over and over and over and over until that thing really hits you and takes over you, to where you can look at it and be like, oh, I really have forgiven. Mm-hmm. And not allowing yourself to be triggered by other people's actions in the area of where you're working on forgiving somebody else in that same area. And that part right there is major, because if you really think about it from the standpoint of distractions, triggers can be indicators of distractions, and can literally stop us from literally forgiving if we allow for that hindrance to really take root to the thing that we're trying to forgive. Hopefully that's making sense for somebody. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the quote is, forgiveness is a gift. Indeed it is. And I think sometimes we forget that forgiving is for me more than anybody else. It's not for the person that hurt you and offended you, or wasn't there, or dropped you, or whatever your situation is. And literally the word talks about, when you can forgive, you can reap. You can reap what's for you when you forgive, because you're not supposed to live in a life of unforgiveness. Let's talk about that. So being able to recognize the power in forgiveness will allow for you to change your perception on the act of forgiving, and understanding that in due season, in due time, you will forget, but it's not automatic. That's a process that takes time. And I tell everybody this all the time, give yourself grace while you're in that thing called process, to literally forget what you've already forgiven that person for doing. It's easy. Heck no, it ain't easy. I'd be lying to you if I said it was. That's why I said it's not an overnight thing. And sometimes you have to forgive over and over and over and over until that thing really lifts off you to where you can literally say, okay, I'm done. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can just move on. To me, this is just me. I don't think you can just move on and forgive just like this. I don't.
No, right.
That's me. I don't think so. Now, I will say, am I learning to forgive more quicker these days? Absolutely. But is something that just right? No. And should it be according to whatever you believe? Probably. But we're also human too. And so just that part of it as well. So I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like you have to let the hurt go. Like when you go through something and then after some time you can look back and laugh at it. When you can laugh at a situation that once made you cry, that's how you know that you're over, that particular thing. And it takes time. It's not, an overnight thing. It takes practice in order to, forgive that person. You may have to forgive them 1,000 times over before it's just, something that you can look back on and say, okay, this doesn't hurt anymore. I truly forgive you. Because we tend to hold things over people's head. Remember when you did this and, and when we do that, we not only make them relive it, but we relive that pain and that hurt that it caused us. And it's just like you set yourself back. You took 10 steps forward just to take 10 steps back and, reminiscing and reliving that pain. So yeah, it's a repetitive type of thing. Like you have to continue to practice forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, it's that time in the hour, and we're definitely going to bring up our guest. Thank you so much for chilling in the background, Jason and Dwayne. We're excited to have you guys here with us. Maybe.
If they want to be seen.
Want to be seen? Can you unmute your mic? Well, it's that time in the hour. Chilling in the background.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
there we go. How you doing?
Hey, how you all doing? I can't complain about anything. How are you all?
We're good.
Good. How are you?
I can't complain about a single thing. I'm just happy to be grateful to be in Vault Talks with you guys. Excited to be here and teach something.
Hello. That's right.
Hello.
No, Dwayne, we cannot see you. We're gonna try that again. Hold on.
There we go. Oh, never mind.
You can see him there. There we go. There he is. Wayne in his house.
Wayne. Right. I gotta have this. Sorry.
I had jokes. I'm sorry. So let's get this party started. Dwayne, can you share with the audience just a little bit about who you are so they can know, who you are? Oh, you gotta unmute your mic. He wants us to guess who he is.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Yes. All right. So first of all, good evening, ladies. How you doing?
We're good.
Good. Thank you.
Are y'all doing okay?
Yeah, we're good.
How you doing?
Okay. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm a fitness instructor by night. I'm a motivational speaker. Can you hear me now? I'm like, okay, good. I'm a motivational speaker. And in the process of writing my own book, The Diary of a Mature Man. Stay tuned, that's coming towards you. And that's pretty much about me. I'm just simple, basic. low key, very vocal, and well spoken. So that's it.
Welcome, welcome. Jason, tell the people who you are, sir.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm grateful to be here on Vault Talks, like I was saying before. My name is Jason Lamar Hoskins Sr. I am, first of all, a man of God. I have a 5-year-old son who I am trying to cultivate into a man of God also. I am in education. I've been in education for about 14 years at the University of Chicago Charter School. I work with high school kids. I do a lot of building relationships with them. I also have a podcast. It's called 5 Minute Fry. My best friend and I, we've been doing that for about maybe 2 years. So you guys can check it out. I'll give you the information perhaps after the show. But that's just a little bit about me. You know, I'm just anxious to get this thing going. I'm anxious to learn something today. You got some motivational speakers in here. Ladies, y'all been doing this for a long time. I'm excited to learn some things.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. So with that being said, we about to dive all the way in, and I do mean all the way in. So let's go ahead and talk about this thing. He said, she said is definitely in full effect. So with the first question is, should you forgive when you forget? Should you forgive? I'm sorry, should you forget when you forgive? Sorry.
Right.
Should you forget when you forgive?
Ooh.
All F's. Should you forget when you forgive? And I'm not gonna read that.
I believe. Okay. All right. So I believe in order to truly forgive someone, forgetting to an extreme to where you hold them accountable is like, I don't feel like that's really a good thing to do. But to not forget so that where you won't happen to make the same mistake again, to where you are pretty much healing and growing for yourself, then I believe that would be like a more feasible thing to do. But to use that to not to forget, just to use that to hang out with someone's head, nah, I don't believe that you can fully forgive anyone in that state of mind.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, you know, the saying goes, forgive and forget, right? So, I mean, yeah, you made a good point as it pertains to that, because that's something that we hear all the time. But it's just like, do we really forget when people wrong us or do something that we seem, you know, worthy of? Okay, I have to forgive you for this, but the forgetting doesn't come with the forgiveness, I would say.
And if I may add too, like, where did that even come from? Who coined this phrase, forgive and forget? I don't know societal things where, you know, how society says men should never cry and be emotional. Yeah, where did that even come from? But in my experience, like, I don't know if you can truly forget. But again, like the young man was saying, it's like when you forgive somebody and you don't forget, it's like sometimes people have a tendency to bring it back up again. And now it's like, okay, now I have to sift through that emotion and kind of guard myself and figure out a way that I could truly seek that forgiveness and not have the other individual still bringing up what happened a week ago or even a year ago. So, I mean, it's one of those tricky kind of things, man, where you kind of have a little bit of both, but not to the extreme to where you're just like having issues, the same issues over and over again, because we all know, of course, that can be really draining.
Very.
Extremely. Right. So, Jason, oh no, go ahead, Liz. You're next. Thank you.
I actually have never believed in that, you know, forget and forgive on that end. I've always been taught, I'll definitely forgive you, but I will never forget. Meaning you will not do that to me again. Like, I won't allow it. So there's a boundary already set. And some people may take that as a wall being put up, but
right.
Yet. it's definitely something that's needed because you need to let them know, like, especially when it starts to trickle back out and people try to take advantage because you give them an inch and they take a mile and they try to take advantage of you. And, you know, oh, you're being so nice to me. You're being so great to me. Oh, so that means you could do X, Y. No, I did not forget what you did. Therefore, you're not going to repeat history. Okay. So that's how.
You said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is a powerful topic for many reasons. I'll say that. And when I'm with you, Jason, like, where did I'm not sure where that quote came from in reference to forgive and forget. However, to me, it was it's
yeah, but this like the.
I think we got a sixth guest on the line and we don't know it. We got someone trying to come through and put their little, okay, all right, we gonna flow. So I think I was saying something on the lines of when, you know, where did that saying even come from? And it's so bad because we live in a society, and we for a long time now, where somebody says something, we catch it and we run with it without really doing our own study on where that came from. Why do we even say that? You know, where is there power in saying that? You know, all those other things. And so, you know, what I'm learning at the tender age of 38 is that words are really powerful. And so we have to be very mindful of how we put those words together, what words that we're really taking on in our minds and when we're releasing out in the universe as well. So the whole thing talking about forgetting, I believe to a certain degree that you can forget. However, where it gets dangerous is where we take that I didn't forget piece of us and allow other people in our lives to do something similar to what we didn't forget. And then all these emotions go and raging if we don't control them to somebody who really didn't do anything wrong per se, but it looks like something that was familiar to us that we really haven't dealt with because we really haven't forgiven that other person, if that makes any sense. So we have new people that are always entering and exiting out of our lives, right? And so we have to be very mindful, even our position and our stance when we talk about forgiveness, because at that one drop, well, I'm done. And you're like, okay, so, you know, are you always going to be done with people, or are you going to learn how to work through the things that need to be worked through? Because at the end of the day, everything does work for our good, one, but you'll know when it's time to literally cut ties with a person. And it's not always going to be because they triggered you. So we got to be mindful of all that when you're talking about forgiveness. And I think the biggest thing is when we don't forgive ourselves, but we don't forgive the person who's harmed us. And that's like a double wrong in that sense, in trying to figure out, you know, what that really looks like for everybody, and especially yourself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense, because we oftentimes blame ourselves for allowing people to do certain things, you know, as if we had control over what the other person did or said. Is just like there is that sense of responsibility for self that we hold ourselves to, just because like we feel like we allowed it to happen. So yeah, self-forgiveness is a big thing. I think that we should practice more often, because you know we take responsibility for things that are not necessarily ours, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next question here. What is unforgiveness tied to? What is absolutely? What is unforgiveness tied to? I know.
Pain is the first thing I think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's
So
go.
I think that I'm actually going through a situation now with my pop, and we hadn't talked about 2 years. And the thing that got us not talking, in my opinion, was real simple. He's a texter. I'm a texter. He's a caller. When I have something important to say, he wants me to call. But in this case, he texts me something and I text him something back. But long story short, for 2 years, I didn't show up at his birthday party, his 60th, which was pretty big. I stayed away from family events, because he was there. I was angry. I was in pain. Uh, I wanted to hurt him by not being there. He has a grandson, my son, and my pride got in the way, my ego got in the way, and I was hurting myself, and I was dragging myself through a lot of pain. I started reading this book by Joyce Meyer's Roots of Rejection, and it kind of opened up my mind to what I was actually dealing with. It was that rejection. How do you deal with that rejection? By knowing who you belong to, which is the Most High. He's my creator. I have to believe what he says that I am, and not anybody else, right? And so I'm taking that all in. And one of the things that she said in the book was to verbalize, say it, say that you forgive, that even though you may not feel that way, but your heart and your mind will catch up as you continue to verbalize it. And I ended up calling him last week. I've talked to a friend for a long time. She helped me kind of sift through my emotions and the pain that I was dealing with. And she helped me realize that, you have to start speaking that. And I did. And I ended up calling him. And so this Sunday, actually, I'm going to see him and we're going to kind of reconnect and just begin again and start building again. But that pain was the first thing that I thought about. Again, I think somebody here already alluded to the fact that we drive ourselves and we make it hard on ourselves to forgive and to just look it in the mirror and just face it. Like why am I putting myself through all of this unnecessary pain? So that was kind of what I first thought about when you posed that question.
That's
about
powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. And you said something really key. You said that unforgiveness can be tied to pride.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And that's an eye opener for me. I mean, I don't think of it like that, but you just gave me a really great way to think of it like that. And sometimes it's easier to not forgive because of that. You wrong me, blah blah blah. I'm entitled to feeling like this, and woo up the bam. All these emotions that they're real, but they're not real. Meaning, they're not benefiting us anything. Mm-hmm. There's no fruit that we're bearing from these emotions, but yet they're real because we're allowing for them to keep us stagnant and not growing. And so it's a bad game of tug of war. And I really believe that knowledge and having conversations like this will allow for people to really realize that and dig deep and have self-reflection on what is your unforgiveness tied to? Is it tied to a person? Is it tied to an event? But for me, my dad wasn't around, so there's many events that some of my unforgiveness was tied to because I'm gonna be there. I promised to be there for this. I promise, and he broke those promises. So it's an event. Just really doing the work, and we talk about that all the time on this platform to really understand what your unforgiveness is tied to. It might just be a simple, lack of understanding or what you were saying, Jason, miscommunication. So not dealing with it has allowed for it to, get to where it is. So somebody, watch this, has to be the bigger person to be like, all right, bet, I'm done. I'm tired. Let's okay, and that's huge.
Very true. Very true.
And that's when you know that you're in a place of maturity to be able to handle something that once pained you, and now you're like, you know what, life is short. Let me step up. And I'm gonna say this, and for our seasoned viewers, hopefully you guys aren't offended by this. Sometimes we're expecting for the older person, the seasoned person, to come back and make things right when it's literally in our hands to make that decision to step out, because when we really think about it from a generational standpoint, things have really changed. And so it's our responsibility as millennials, since this show is hosted by millennial queens, we have to understand that the millennials are game changers in itself. And sometimes and we get the bad rap, but actually we're probably one of the most intelligent generations here on the planet. Who did we learn from? Our previous generations, and we give credit to that. However, we operate and move in different ways, and sometimes that's not always acknowledged nor expressed. But somebody got to get tired of this game, because it's not bearing me any fruit. And if it's not bearing you any fruit, unforgiveness can be that thing that literally stops from gaining access to the next thing that's a part of your assignment and your destiny, a part of this planet. So how long are you going to go around the mountain and not go up the mountain to really achieve what it is that you've been placed on the planet to fulfill?
That's right.
Wow, that was wonderful.
Thanks.
If I may add too, that when you talked about kind of that role reversal, like, you're my dad, I'm the son. Why am I supposed to initiate? He ignored me, and it was
speak on
was
that.
using that silence. It was using that silence to hurt me. Why should I be the first one to take the first step? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's how God dealt with me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know who I belong to, I'm able to say, you know what? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with me going out and say, Dad, I love you and I miss you? And that's exactly what I did. So I'm gonna be quiet, let somebody else.
So
can I say something about the unforgiveness part?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we waiting on
I'm
you.
sorry. I ain't stepping on no one's toes, did I? Okay.
No.
So like unforgiveness. So the whole thing about the unforgiveness that sometimes that we like to do is we like to use that as kind of like almost like a positioning tool. We kind of use that as a positioning tool, or also use that as kind of like weight. So being that I can choose to use this unforgiving tool to make you feel some kind of way, it's kind of like it's like a almost like a ping pong match. I'm going to weigh all this unforgiveness on you so I can control you, or control how you feel, or control how you react, or I'm going to continue to keep dragging you through the mud. But just like it was said, that as far as with the maturing factor, that someone has to be the bigger person. Someone has to use this unforgiveness, and someone has to accept this unforgiveness at the same time. That I can't be unforgiving if you're not willing to accept that I am being unforgiving to you, and that I'm truly, genuinely expressing myself and my deepest sincerity, and as far as me being sorry, so that I can move on with my life, I can continue to heal and grow, and that you can do the same thing.
Yeah, that is true. People use holding grudges and unforgiveness as a kind of defense mechanism, in a sense. If they have been wronged by someone, it's just easier sometimes to say no. You know what I mean? Not to deal with those feelings. I don't want to deal with, your apologies or the feelings, or, all of that. So it's just easier for me to stay away. And, that type of defense could potentially ruin relationships that could have been, kind of restored, in a sense. And it is tied to, that egotistical thinking of, you did this to me, and, since you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you, or I'm not going to deal with you anymore. It's just like, we have to then do work within ourselves. Yeah, we put the blame on the other person and say, you did this, but in a sense, we're wrong too, if we're choosing, to condemn them, in a sense, and not really accept that, people make mistakes.
That's true. That's true. I like how both of you went into it, and in general, how I'll kind of like wrapped it up. being able to think about it, like I think that unforgiveness is sometimes taken as a clutch, as a grudge as well, Ieshia, where we use that as a handicap, and people will just drive it into the dirt, drive it deep into the mud, where they can no longer bury it out. Jason mentioned how that kept you from your father for 2 years. When will it stop? Because someone had to be the bigger person at the end of the day, whether it be your elders or whether it be, the children on that end. Because at the end of the day, I come from a Caribbean background, and it's always going to, if, I'm going to make it funny, I'm going to lighten up the mood for a second. But if my grandmother farts, I have to say, excuse me. It's not the other way around. Okay. So it's always taking that sense of responsibility for it, because us as a culture have been taught, you take responsibility, you take blame, you just apologize for it and you move forward. And it's when you take all that pressure, when you take all that weight and it continues to carry you down and you wear it on your shoulders, on your back, and you have 1,001 bags, you're trying to unlearn the things or the baggage, or drop the baggage that you picked up because someone else passed it to you. And now you're like, okay, well, how do I process? How do I, how do I unbag, or how do I remove bags and never pick them back up again? As a process. And I think that people need to take the time out and understand that it's a grieving process. You're in denial state, you're in an angry state, you're in this state, in a bargaining state, so on and so forth. But if you're not able to process it thoroughly and understand what you did in the situation and what the other person took from the situation and how they viewed it, and then process it and say, okay, you know what? I see my faults, if there were any faults to begin with.
Oh my.
Okay.
Oh my. Oh my.
And then turn around and say, okay, I see your faults, whatever your faults were to begin with, or whatever you ended with, and how much do I value this relationship? How much do I want to keep this relationship near me? And say, I'm going to move on from what happened back then, and now we're going to start fresh. And that means no digging it back up again. That means don't throw it back in my face later. That means we're going to move forward, not backwards. And there's no looking behind us anymore. Let's go that way.
And you're so much. And the one thing what you said,
very true,
Liz, was maturity. That takes a mature mind to be able to make that firm decision, because when I say firm, you can't be wavery with it. When you say, when you wishy-washy, when you release those words out of your mouth, there's no going back. And so, to me, that takes a mature mind to be able to say, you know what, and I believe that when you love a person so much too, you want to work. Since we're talking about he said, she said, they share. When you really want to make things work with a person, and they've hurt you, and you want to keep that thing moving forward, being that mature person, and also knowing who you're in a relationship with, so they are too mature, so they understand that this is done. We're done. Are you done? You done? You sure? Okay. Ready? We're gonna move on. You okay with that? It's the yellow light. Okay, we about to transition to green. Okay, here it comes. And then it's done. I don't want to hear about it. So when I mess up, because guess what? I'm human. I'm gonna mess up. No more and throw that in my face, because we said on this day that we're gonna leave this right here and we're gonna continue to move forward. So that's maturity, and on so many levels. I mean, and I applied it to like that romantic relationship, but it's a practical mindset shift that anybody can take to be able to make it applicable to any type of relationship that they're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One last thing I want to add to that. Go ahead.
When you're talking about moving forward, so I talked to my dad for like 30 minutes after he called me back, and it's a long story, but what I will say is we made a pact, and we told ourselves, both of us, we agreed that we would never let anything come between us like that again. And it was agreement that we shared that if something does arise again where I'm feeling prideful, he's feeling prideful, he's angry, I'm angry, vice versa, that we're gonna come back and we're gonna roll up our sleeves and we're gonna do the work. No, we're not gonna avoid this thing. We're gonna hit it head first. And I think that was really important for our relationship and being confident and being hopeful about, hey, this relationship is gonna it's gonna last forever, and we're gonna keep building and keep building, and we're not gonna let anything stand in our way of that. So yeah, and you can apply that to a personal relationship with someone as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. He kind of just answered what I said. So good.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was trying to get Dwayne in the mix here. He quiet. We got to silence the floor when he get ready to speak.
Nothing to add.
Right.
Maybe stuck.
Oh, me? It's like I'm trying to hear y'all. No, nothing that. Yeah, I'm probably stuck. But no, pretty much everything, piggyback off what everyone said, the whole unforgiveness thing. Just like I said, someone has to step up. Someone has to step up, be the bigger person, be the bigger adult about the situation, and choose to live life. That's one thing. The word unforgiveness is such a word, but the whole big concept of the whole thing is life. You have this one life. Do you want to live this one life full of regrets? Do you want to live this one life full of grudges? Do you want to live this one life full of nothing but weights holding you down? Forgive, forgive. Move on, live your life. People are dying young, people are dying old. So take heed, live your life to the fullest, let go, and grow.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We oftentimes, think that we are doing something to the other person when we hold them in unforgiveness, but the whole time we are hurting ourselves. And as long as you're holding on to something, your hand is closed and not really open to receiving, the good things that can come from the relationship or, whatever situation that you are holding that unforgiveness for. It stands in a way of a lot that we don't really take into account when we say I'm not going to forgive this person for whatever. But yeah, like you were saying, it's easier to just let go and live life. I mean, it's so much other things to do than to hold all that anger and bad emotions in towards another person. It does. It's, for one, it stresses you out. It makes you old
Mhm.
early and all the extra, so you're essentially damaging yourself.
Yes.
Yep.
Love it. We're gonna move
Mhm.
on for the sake of time to this next question. It's gonna be our last question. We're gonna wrap up this segment. So here we go. How do you forgive someone who doesn't recognize they've hurt you? How do you forgive someone who has not recognized that they hurt you? Woo-wee! That's all I'm gonna
With
say.
that one, you just have to do it. You cannot wait on them to kind of realize, because again, we all understand that
Oof, that.
forgiveness is for yourself and not for the other person. So if you wait around on them to figure out, okay, what I did was wrong, you're gonna be waiting forever. So in that sense, I say, just do it and move on.
Now, is that practical? Is it really that easy?
Yeah, because I've done it.
For
It
you?
doesn't happen quickly. It does
Okay.
not happen quickly. It does not
Okay.
happen quickly. But after a while, when you realize you beating a dead horse, pretty much, and it's just like, you know what? And especially if it's somebody who's attached to you, a family member or whatever, it's just like you have to choose to move on. Whether you choose to move on in a relationship with that person, whether you interact with them on a daily or go back to what you guys had before, regardless of if that happens or not, you have to do it for yourself in order for you to move on from it, because everything that you're holding on to it, so you're taking it with you everywhere you go. So in
Yeah.
order to just kind of let that baggage go for you, just do it.
And that's powerful. You said something really key. You said something that really was like, oh my gosh. So when you hold on to it, what I literally just saw was when you hold on to it, you're not making room for anything else to come in. Or, it's a limited capacity of what actually can't enter in because you're holding on to something that technically doesn't deserve for you to hold on to it, but you haven't felt the need to release it because of whatever feelings, emotions that it caused for you to go through or continue to go through, because sometimes people are going through that. And this thing may have happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I know some people like that to this day where they've been hurt and they're still holding on to it. Now, to what grip are they holding on? It might not be as tight as it was when the event first occurred, but they still holding on to it, even if it's the size of a mustard seed, right? Even if it's that small, they still holding on to it for whatever reason. And I think sometimes two reasons why that happens. One, if I ever have to, throw that back up on them just in case, I still have something valid to share with them on how I felt, boo bop the band, woo woo, And the other thing is what I'm learning is that no one really teaches you how to forgive, period. So when you talk about forgiving someone that doesn't even recognize that they've hurt you, that's a whole nother magnitude of forgiveness. And so, like Jason was saying earlier, when we talk about how I'm being taught to forgive and forget, now that we are mature enough to unlearn that saying, now we're relearning and learning how to move on with that. It can be a challenge, and we have to constantly make up our mind to do the work to really gain the healing for ourselves more than anybody. And that's a challenge because, again, we weren't taught the laws or the rules of forgiveness because we were taught, forgive and forget, and that's it. No one ever even expounded on forgive and forget. They just threw it out you like a sloppy plate of sloppy joes with the meat all sloppy, and you gotta eat. It sounds really good. But it was handed to us in a sloppy manner, right? So now, the older we get, the more mature we get, we're learning how to really unlearn stuff like that to be able to understand, like, even though someone doesn't recognize when they've hurt you, or, what we like to do is try to make people understand, and we can't do that either. We can't make people understand. Hey, Viola, we can't make people understand. Hello. We can't make people understand that. And we want to, and we feel like it's our job to make people understand. Well, you hurt me, and I'm going to help you understand how you hurt me, and and it's like, and one of the things that I teach my clients is I literally walk them through a session to where I have them write down on index cards who has hurt them, and I will literally sit in front of them, hold up that index card, and say, "All right, let's get it out. I'm who is on this card. Let's go." And sometimes they're yelling, sometimes they're screaming, sometimes they're crying, sometimes they're laughing, but it allows for them to release those feelings and emotions so they can continue to move on. No one teaches us this. No one teaches this. We're told that unforgiveness is a sin. Okay? We're taught that, but we're also taught forgive and forget. So it's like we're battling. So when someone wrongs you, it's a whole nother ball, especially when they don't know. And we're looking for them to admit that. And we may never get that. And it's okay.
If I could land back, I don't eat pork, so I'll land back for what the car was just saying. I had a lot of thoughts, but it was just like Ieshia said, it's like you just rip it off. Band-Aid, just rip it off, just do it. I was talking about how you have to verbalize it until your heart and your mind catch up. I found out that as I continue to learn about who I was and God, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a peculiar person. I am set apart. God love conquers all. Like, as I began to learn who I was, it became easier for me to say, you know what? I'm doing this for me. If he never even says, or she never even says anything to me, I need to do it for myself. And I went into, before I even text or call my father, I had to internalize that. Like, he may curse me out and say, you know what, I'm still angry, but you know what, I'm gonna say
Yes, correct.
this, to declare this, because I need this for me, right? And so again, I had to learn who I was. I had to be confident in who I was to be able to say, you know what, I forgive you, and there is no doubt in my mind. So it could be like a band-aid when you rip it off. Again, that even still hurt, right? But as I learned about who I was, I became more confident in who I was, and it increased my ability to say, you know what, I'm gonna just do this. I forgive you, Dad. I forgive you, until my heart and my mind caught up with it.
Yeah, that part, like knowing that you are capable of doing it, because a lot of times we hold ourselves back and it's just like, oh, it's so hard. I don't know how, I don't want to. And, you know, we go through all these reasons why not to, but we really just don't know how to do it. And we don't think that we're capable or have the power enough to say, you know what, it is what it is. I'm gonna move on. I mean,
Yep.
it's really simple, but you know, we complicate things all the time.
That part.
I think we shouldn't be asking about the how, and we should be, again, asking about the whys. Why is it that we can't move on? Why is it that it's holding us in bondage? Why
Yep.
does it
So
continue to hurt?
the piggyback off what everyone said,
Yep. And why we need to just make sure that we're doing what we're doing on that end. So it's really just changing the question. It's changing the conversation that you're having with yourself or with that person.
yeah.
And
So
just
to
constantly doing
piggyback
that.
off what everyone said, you know, it's pretty much just like you said.
Go ahead, Dwayne. No, did we lose you, Dwayne?
I'm not sure. So we're gonna wrap up this segment. Oh my
Okay,
God,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you guys.
Just pretty much to piggyback what off everyone said is just pretty much have to do with self healing. You know, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and segue into the next segment here.
Hello?
And thank you guys so much for being guests on the show tonight. We appreciate you so very much. Jason, Dwayne Price, mwah, we appreciate you. The queens of Vault Talk appreciate when the men step it up and are a part of He Said, She Said, They Share. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, your energy, your words of wisdom, and enjoy your night. And I'm sure you guys will be back on the platform sooner than later, for sure. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Later.
Later. All right. So coming up next, we got the one, the only Ieshia, the influencer. We got her segment, Love for Real. And we're going to just keep it going with the topic of tonight, talking about all things forgiveness. So go ahead, Ieshia, the influencer. Go ahead and take us on in.
All right, so forgiveness is tied to love for real. In order to do so, I think so, you have to really, you know, love that person enough to say, I'm willing to kind of move on and get past whatever hurt that we may have caused each other. So, I mean, throughout the conversation, like it happens all the time, we hit every point that I was going to talk about in the segment. So this is pretty much just a reiteration of what we just talked about. But like when we normally think about forgiveness, we think about it in the vein of forgiving the other person. And, you know, because we are always, I wouldn't say always, but most of the time in the victim mindset of you did something to me, you hurt me. But once I thought about it as I was preparing for this segment, it's just like 9 times out of 10, if you have to forgive someone, then there was an exchange of hurt that took place. And I don't think we really stopped to think about it. it's just, the action of which you have to forgive was probably provoked by something that you did, something that you said, unknowingly. We do this all the time in conversations. We're offended by something that someone says to us, and then we don't say anything about it. And then we kind of try to seek that revenge. So we end up hurting the other person. And then you have this whole situation to where, now I have to forgive you for doing this. And it's just like, we know hurt people, and it's just a continuous cycle. So in order to kind of avoid that cycle, I would say do these two things. With the list, it's only two this time. So the first one is vocalize the offense, like right when it happens. If someone offends you, say, hey, what you said or what you did hurt me. I didn't like it, or, whatever. Instead of internalizing it and holding on to it and letting it fester, and you hurt and you plan it over and over in your mind, and then it lingers. So, that's when you are provoked, and then you are plotting, and then you are planning, and then you potentially will sabotage, a good thing based off of just a hurt feeling, so being able to just speak it right in the moment. Hey, I didn't like this. You hurt my feelings when you did this. I think that'll cut out, most of that cycle to where I'm offended and now I'm gonna get you back type of thing. The second thing is just, and I'm speaking in terms of relationships, since this is the he said, she said segment. Just visualize your partner as your teammate instead of your opponent. Like when we do get into, an argument or whatever, when things happen and someone says something to you or does something to you that hurts you, just know that, you're on the same team. So instead of kind of going at each other, just visualize, okay, we're on the same team, because you have to think about relationships, just like the game of life. You have to play the game of life like you play any other game. You have to know who's on your team and what they're capable of. It's just like, you playing a good game of spades, you pick your partner carefully. You're not going to pick somebody who don't know how to play, or, whatever. So you have to definitely know who you're with, and what they're capable of, and then have like a winning strategy. So if you do get into those moments to where, it's heated and we're offending each other, just know how to come out on the other side, because it's going to happen. So in order to kind of get through those tough times, just have something in place to say, hey, this is what we're going to do if this happens. And then the last thing is just be intentional about, the moves you make. Again, just visualizing you're on the same team. So you want you and your teammate to win, and being intentional about the things that you do, so that it will be less of those apologies and less of those, I forgive you and that type of thing. Just be more mindful and more intentional about it. And to kind of recap, it's just like, don't be in victim mode all the time. You're not the only one that can get hurt, and understand that people hurt differently. So you may do something to someone that you didn't think was offensive, but they got offended by it. So just being open enough to know, that people hurt differently, and, forgiveness is always the key. So that's my segment.
Woo! Dropping them bombs. Dropping them bombs. Yeah, and I love it, because the fact is that, unforgiveness is one of those things just up there, like with money and the lack of communication, that can destroy a relationship.
Right.
So being able to go in with a strategy, and to keep the strategy, the game plan, the blueprint ahead of you, is important. And even having those difficult conversations with the one you're in a relationship with, so you guys can understand each other's love language, and when these things happen, you guys know how to work through them together. And so you don't feel like, a house divided, kind of like since we're doing really football season this year for the colleges. Like if you are an Alabama fan and he's an Auburn fan, y'all in the same house, y'all rivals, really. Because if you don't know anything about college football, yeah, those are two of the biggest rivals on the planet, literally, and they in the same state. But had to give a little football analogy. Definitely missed that with COVID going on. But anyways, but being able to understand that a house of undivided will not stand, and to be able to come in with strategies on how to maneuver around, different things, or just having a safe place to unpack your baggage, and not being viewed as this, that, and the other because what I'm getting ready to take out of my bag, it might stink, it might be foul, it might have quite the odor. And you ain't, because I ain't never dealt with it. I ain't never felt comfortable dealing with it. So it's just been in this bag for the past 20 years. And so now that I'm finally at a place of being comfortable and vulnerable, and like you said, being on the same team, that really opens up your mindset to receive your mate in that capacity, understanding that, when you're in the right relationship, there's just going to be some type of things that you are more equipped to handle because of the previous relationship and the self-development that you've done and those tools that you gained from all kinds of relationships. And now but now I get to use this one. Oh, I was wondering when this was coming. Okay, now I can use it now. Say it real hard. For real? Do I get to phone a friend or this is real? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I did. Phone a friend, 50-50. What do I get to do?
Right. Take away too.
Right. And just to be able to, understand that's where the scripture, for those of you who are Bible believers or believers as a whole, all things really work for your good. And understanding the timing, going back to Ecclesiastes, just talking about the timing of a thing. And sometimes we don't understand while we're going through, it's actually to get to those moments where the seasons change. And now, like I said, Padal, this tool that I've been waiting to use, you can use it. And it can be a fruitful exchange between you and your mate, because that's the one that you've been called and to use it on. So it's really cool.
Absolutely. And forgiveness is a part of the growing process. Like you have to grow into certain things in order to be able to do that, because that's a big move. And when you practice it over and over and you flex that, work that muscle, it'll allow you to be able to do so much more. It'll free you up. You know what I mean? You won't be in bondage for so long, holding on to things that don't really benefit you. So it's very freeing to be able to forgive and do it often.
Amen.
Amen to that.
I love it. So it's been an amazing show. Thank you for all you guys who have tuned in live, who are catching the replay. And next week's show, woo-wee! Hey. So if you don't know, now you know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to feel some type of way that August is almost over and we're getting ready to transition into September. I'm starting to feel some type of way. I'm just being honest, because
especially in Chicago.
Oh, honey, especially in Chicago. I'm running over.
I missed it.
We missed you. I'm running over leaves and I'm seeing leaves in the yard, and I'm like, oh my God. Even though we are going through quite the heat wave, because it's been in the 90s all week long.
Wow.
However, I'm looking at my tree as I'm sitting in my living room, and there's not many leaves on it, and it's August. And so with that being said, we'll be in September. It will be the first Thursday of September. So yours truly will be on the platform, and I have my segment and I'm really excited. It's the Coaches Huddle. So women coaches come together and talk about different topics that matter to their world. And I'm not telling y'all what the topic is. Y'all gonna have to see it in the promo. We're gonna see who the real deals are out here in Facebook and YouTube world who are our real followers. And we have Viola Hall with Holistically You Two who will be coming up. And who knows what she gonna drop on us, because she always drops bombs every time she be on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited. We thank you guys for tuning in. And that's been Vault Talks Women Share. And peace. We out. Mwah.
Bye, y'all.
Later.
Peace.